A Sony mirrorless camera with a flip screen, mind blown. Is the 4-year-old Sony A5100 still worth it in mid-2018? Let's find out. What's up everyone, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. I'm a pretty big fan of cameras in general, and I really like what Sony's been doing recently with their full frame, APS-C, and point-and-shoot camera lines. I've had almost all of them through here, currently filming on the A7 III. I love what they're doing. I very recently made a series of videos about their brand new Sony RX100 Mark VI, which is their very expensive, new ultimate travel camera, and that really got me thinking, can this, almost as old as my Son APS-C camera that I got for $300, do better at being a portable video platform? And again, it has a flip screen. Woo! But first things first, we have to get this camera out of the box. Well, more of a package than a box. Unpacking complete. Yes, that was a bit of a joke. And before we really kick things off, let's talk about the basic specs of the A5100. Spoilers for those new to the Everyday Dad. I don't do photography, and so these specs will be concerned with making online video content. The Sony A5100 is an interchangeable lens mirrorless camera that was released in September of 2014. It has an APS-C size sensor, which is the same sensor size as in the A65 and A6300 camera, and I really like the sensors on those cameras. It has a hybrid phase detection autofocus system, which in a camera this small and at this price point is legitimately amazing. The lens mount is the Sony E, so if you currently have any Sony lenses, they will be able to perfectly fit on here. It can record in up to XAVC 1080p 60 frames per second, no 4K, but it is $300 to $400. Physically, this is a tiny camera. It feels like they made a relatively huge sensor and put the smallest body possible around it. The buttons are a little constrained, and it doesn't have as many knobs and dials as I'd like, but it's easy enough to set it into manual and change the aperture, ISO, shutter speed to really whatever you want. The real main selling point of the A5100, besides its tiny size, I mean, seriously, it's roughly the same size as the RX100 series of cameras, is the flip out screen. All of us that talk about cameras on YouTube wish dearly that the newer and bigger Sony cameras had this very useful addition. You know, here's hoping for a 4K 5300. The screen, however, is pretty low quality. The main problem is the screen itself is pretty low res, so the video itself looks like it has a huge amount of noise in the image, and the first time I turned the camera on, it made me really concerned that I'd made a grave mistake in buying this, when in actuality, the image quality coming out of the 5100 is pretty darn good. A huge physical negative on the A5100 is something we saw back on the A6000. There is no audio jack on the A5100. That would make this probably one of the ultimate budget starter cameras around. I mean, like I mentioned in every RX100 video I've made, you can easily record audio off camera, so it's not a deal breaker, but I wish that all cameras that had legitimate video settings also had an audio in jack. Okay, we've sat here talking about the camera for long enough, so let's head out and do some autofocusing tests and some video filming with the A5100. Okay, and this is the image quality out of the Sony A5100. You can see that it's doing a great job of keeping me in focus. I'm really impressed by the flip out screen. I mean, we all love the flip out screen around here, but it's just that the focus is really good. It's an APS-C size sensor, and it's got the flip out screen. How crazy is that? Like, in what universe would those of us that started filming in like 2017, 2018 think that you could get a Sony APS-C censored camera with a flip out screen? This is like, it's back to the future, but it's amazing. I really, like I said, I really like the small form factor. I really like the flip out screen. I'm really impressed by this. I think the video quality is pretty good. The APS-C sensor on the Sony is proven to be a low light destroyer, which we'll do a low light test here in just a second, but it should be doing a fine job of keeping focus on me. It's really what matters. And the overheating is kind of a problem, but you know, there is no perfect camera, but okay, back to the video. Okay, and before we get back to the main video, this is the exact same shot from the rest of the video that was filmed with the A7 III, with the exact same lens, by the way. One of the main benefits of the Sony APS-C cameras is their shockingly good low light capability. So what do you think? I hope this looks pretty darn good. I mean, like I said, it's the exact same shot. The best thing about Sony cameras is how good they do in low light. There is one additional light set up in this room right now. There's a light down here so that this shot, since the RX100 Mark VI is not very good in low light, I did have to add a little bit of a light so you could actually see this camera. So There is a little bit. Okay, so here's the actual exact same lighting setup. Everything's the same as the A7 III, so here's where you can tell the difference. Okay, back to the video. Whew. Okay, so after filming with this for about a day, what do I like and dislike about this 4-year-old camera? So in all actuality, there is a lot that I like about the A5100. The small size is amazing, the flip out screen is awesome, the video continuous autofocus is still amazingly good. For me personally, I think that the Sony APS-C size sensor is probably my favorite sensor in all of cameradom. It strikes a really awesome balance between portability, but also having the benefits of a larger sensor that, I love it. The flip screen is a touchscreen like on the A7 III where you can pull focus with it, and I think that's a pretty neat little novel feature on a relatively ancient Sony camera. And I really like the image quality out of this thing. Like I mentioned earlier, I got this for $300 very open box from my local Best Buy, and I think that's a fantastic deal. It does have a really nice image, and I think this is absolutely value added to my kit. However, this is not some ancient magic short sword crafted by the ancients in camera form. There are some issues, a couple are major. Like I mentioned previously, there is no audio in jack. I really wish there was an audio in jack. It would be so awesome. This would probably become my recommended budget camera, period, from here on out. All of the good audio you've seen from the A5100 in this video was recorded on the Zoom H1. Another pretty big deal, and we see this a lot on Sony's smaller body cameras, is the overheating. Generally, if you use a small body Sony camera in its highest available video quality, it will eventually overheat. The A63, A6500 overheat when recording in 4K, the RX 100 series does the same but much quicker, and the A5100 absolutely overheats when recording in the XAVC 1080p setting. I've done a couple of quick overheating tests here in the house so far with the A5100, and I've gotten it to show the overheating icon around the 18 to 20 minutes of continuous filming, and this is in 1080p 30 frames per second, but it didn't actually shut down during the 30-minute recording limit. So it happens, but for me personally, it's not a deal breaker as none of my videos record that long at a stretch. Something small that I don't like is the menu system. Now, I've been using Sony cameras as my main cameras for more than a year now, and I feel like I'm pretty comfortable about getting around the sometimes chaotic Sony menu system. And even then, it took me longer than usual how to set up the A5100 in a manner that I prefer. It's not impossible, and I've gotten it down now. It was a pretty steep and frustrating learning curve at the beginning. And I still don't know if you can change up the autofocus system when recording video. I can only get it set to do continuous autofocus in video recording. If you know a way to change that, let me know. If you can even do manual focus on this thing, I'd really like to know that. So what, right? Again, I haven't used this long enough to make a definitive statement, but I'm pretty darn impressed with what I've seen out of this little camera so far. I really like the flip screen, I really like the image quality, and something that I've been looking for is a decent camera to start taking to expos and conventions, and this might be the perfect little device for that. It's cheap, good, more to follow this week. Thanks for watching.